Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise to get you the insights that matter, fast. Today, we're jumping into a world that's kind of working behind the scenes but really changing global commerce, fleet management, consulting provider services. Sounds a bit niche, maybe. But think about your online orders showing up right on time or, city buses running smoothly. That efficiency, it doesn't just happen. A lot of the time, it's thanks to this industry. And we're basing our deep dive today on a report from Cognitive Market Research. So our mission here is to figure out why this sector is seeing such, explosive growth. What does it actually mean for businesses, for logistics, maybe even for our daily lives? Because the numbers are pretty staggering, actually. We're talking a global market projected to shoot up from, just over $5.3 billion in 2021?
That's right.
To a massive $16.2 billion by 2033.
Yeah, that's a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of almost 9.8%.
Nearly 10%. So it's basically tripling in, 12 years?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's huge growth.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, the big question then is, why? What's really fueling this huge demand for fleet consulting? What's going on here?
It's a great question. And look, rising fuel costs, maintenance costs, those are definitely pushing businesses. That's part of it. But there's more. It's also the sheer complexity of managing fleets today. It's just ballooning.
Complexity how?
Well, think about different vehicle types. Electric vehicles coming in, the challenges of last-mile delivery, especially with e-commerce, and then add sustainability targets, plus keeping up with all the environmental and safety rules, which are getting stricter all the time. Businesses are kind of realizing, whoa, we can't just wing this anymore. The expertise needed is just, very specific now.
Okay, so they bring in consultants. What do these services actually do?
They basically give businesses a strategy, a roadmap. They help them streamline how they use their vehicles, make sure they're not sitting idle too much. They focus hard on reducing the total cost of ownership, TCO.
TCO, right. That's not just buying the truck.
Exactly. It's everything. Fuel, maintenance, insurance, depreciation, even the admin time spent managing it all. It adds up fast. Consultants also optimize routes, which is crucial. And maybe most importantly, they help implement data-driven decisions.
Data-driven? How?
Through telematics, mostly. Think of telematics as like a fitness tracker, but for vehicles.
Okay.
It uses GPS and onboard sensors to track locations, speed, fuel use, idling time, engine health, everything, really, in real time.
So you get actual data on what's happening.
Precisely, which allows for really smart, proactive management instead of just reacting to problems. And if you connect that back, it means the packages you order get there when they're supposed to. The bus you rely on is more likely to be on time and efficient. Essential services, utility companies, they run more smoothly.
Ah, okay. It's like this invisible layer making things work better.
That's a good way to put it. It's often invisible, but vital.
Makes perfect sense. So it's less about just cutting costs and more about adapting to this whole new way of operating. And I guess these pressures and solutions are hitting different parts of the world differently. What does the global picture look like? Who's leading this?
Yeah, the growth is definitely global, but the dynamics vary quite a bit. North America, for example, is still the dominant market. It's projected to hit over $6.2 billion by 2033.
Still the biggest chunk.
By far.
Yeah.
The U.S. leads there, mainly because they were early adopters of telematics, plus they just have a huge number of vehicles and a really mature logistics and delivery system.
Right.
But interestingly, Canada and Mexico are showing really strong growth rates too. They're investing more in transport tech, and there's a lot of cross-border trade fueling that need for efficiency.
Okay, so North America's strong. What about Europe?
Europe's another major player, expected to reach over $4.5 billion by 2033. You've got countries like France showing solid growth, but what's really catching attention is the rest of Europe category. Think Eastern Europe, the Nordic countries. Their growth rate is actually the highest in Europe.
Why is that?
A big part of it is regulation. Tightening carbon emission laws are a huge driver.
Ah, the push for green fleets.
Exactly. Electrification of fleets is happening faster there, and there's a big push for adopting smart, efficient fleet technologies across the board. The regulatory landscape in Europe is really accelerating things.
Interesting. And Asia Pacific, often a high-growth area.
Definitely seeing rapid expansion there, too. Projected to hit over $3.2 billion by 2033, with a regional CGR over 10.6%.
Strong numbers.
Very strong. And India is actually leading the pack within Asia Pacific, with growth over 11%.
India. Why specifically?
Think about the boom in e-commerce there, the sheer scale of last-mile delivery needed in dense cities. plus significant government investment in infrastructure. It's creating massive demand.
Makes sense.
And of course, China and Japan are huge players too, given their massive logistics networks. They're also seeing growth rates above 10%.
Okay, what about other regions? South America?
South America is showing strong potential as well, forecasted to grow to over $1.2 billion. Argentina is actually showing one of the highest growth rates in the region alongside the rest of South America category.
And the drivers there? Similar.
Similar, but maybe with a focus on modernization. There's high demand for consulting to boost efficiency and sustainability, especially because their logistics sectors can be quite fragmented and are still developing in many areas. They need help catching up and improving.
Got it. Middle East.
Steady growth, maybe a bit slower overall compared to Asia or Africa, but projected to reach over $500 million. Within the region, the UAE and Egypt are expected to grow faster than the average.
It's pushing it there.
Modernization efforts, particularly in oil and gas transport, big public infrastructure projects, and these ambitious smart city initiatives you hear about, they all require efficient fleet management.
Okay, that leaves one continent, Africa.
Right, and Africa. This is where it gets really fascinating. It's actually emerging as the fastest growing region in the entire market.
Fastest, wow. What kind of numbers are we talking?
A CAGR of over 14.2%. It's starting from a smaller base, obviously around 85 million in 2021, but projected to reach nearly 394 million by 2033.
That's incredible growth. Which parts of Africa?
Nigeria, South Africa, and the rest of Africa category are all showing double-digit growth. The rest of Africa actually has the highest CAGR, over 14.6%.
What's driving that phenomenal rate? Is it just catch-up?
It's partly catch-up, yes, but it's more than that. It's about increasing digitization of logistics across the continent. Government fleet modernization programs are playing a role too. But what's really interesting, and maybe points to the future, is the potential for leapfrogging.
Leapfrogging.
Yep.
Meaning skipping older tech.
Exactly. Instead of having to deal with legacy systems like in some more established markets, many African businesses and governments can jump straight to the latest digital fleet solutions, mobile tech, cloud platforms.
So they can build more modern, efficient systems from the ground up almost.
Precisely. It gives them a unique opportunity to be incredibly efficient, perhaps even more so than some older, more established operations elsewhere that are kind of burdened by outdated infrastructure. It's a really dynamic space to watch.
That is a fascinating point about leapfrogging.
Yeah.
Really changes the perspective. So, okay, pulling all this together, looking at the big picture, what's the main takeaway from this global surge in fleet management consulting?
Well, the main takeaway is that this industry, it's not just growing, it's becoming absolutely essential. It's a core component now for modern logistics, any kind of commercial transport, public sector fleets, delivery services, pretty much anything that involves vehicles moving goods or people.
So it's gone from nice to have to need to have.
Absolutely. Businesses aren't just looking to consultants to maybe shave off a bit on fuel costs anymore. They need them to navigate complexity, to adopt smart mobility solutions, to seriously reduce their environmental impact, and to make sure they're meeting all the safety and compliance rules, especially now, in this tech-heavy, post-pandemic global economy, how things move, it's central. And it really does make you wonder, how is this ongoing transformation going to keep reshaping our economies and, well, our daily lives over the next 10 years?
Yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? What an insightful look into an industry that, like you said, is often invisible, but clearly so vital. We've covered the incredible growth, the drivers from cost and complexity to sustainability and tech adoption. And we've seen it's truly global, with North America leading in size, Europe and Asia-Pacific surging, and Africa really standing out with that incredible growth rate and that potential for leapfrogging. So here's something for you to think about. As this industry keeps expanding so rapidly, how might these behind-the-scenes improvements in managing fleets really change things for us? How products get to our doors, how our public services run, maybe even how our cities are designed in the future around smarter, greener transport? And what other innovations might pop up from this constant push for more efficiency and sustainability in logistics? Definitely something to mull over next time you see a delivery van zip by. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you feel a little more informed.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack the invisible forces shaping our world. So imagine for a second, maybe a mid-sized delivery company, right? It's growing fast. But their fuel costs, they're just spiraling. Trucks keep breaking down kind of out of the blue. And they're always, scrambling with new emissions rules. They've got mountains of data GPS logs, maintenance records, driver stuff. But honestly, they don't know where to start. How do you make it useful? That's a big challenge. And that's exactly why today we're exploring this booming world of fleet management consulting provider services. You see organizations, big ones, small ones, logistics giants, local builders. They're turning to specialized consultants more and more. They're essentially looking for a shortcut, maybe a lifeline to optimize how things run and, get a real edge.
Yeah, and our mission here really is to figure out why this market is picking up so much steam. We want to uncover what's really driving the growth, what the big roadblocks are, and maybe the most interesting part, look at the really cool trends shaping where it's all going. A lot of what we'll talk about comes from some deep analysis. Sources like cognitive market research have put together some good stuff.
Okay, so you mentioned complexity. What is really pushing companies to, bring in outsiders? Why not just figure it out themselves?
Well, it really starts with just the sheer scale of operational complexity that's rising. Think about logistics, construction, transport. It's not just a little more complex. It's like exponentially harder. Imagine managing a fleet, right? Every single truck is pumping out data constantly. Then add these like constantly changing regulations. Emission standards are a big one. They shift so fast. Most internal teams, frankly, just aren't set up for that kind of intense real-time data crunching and rule following.
Yeah, and what's fascinating to me is how much the tech has changed everything. This rapid integration of telematics and the Internet of Things, IoT. Modern fleets, they're not just trucks anymore, are they? They're
Yeah.
almost like mobile data hubs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. Telematics, that mix of telecom and informatics gives you this live digital pulse on every single vehicle. We're down to real-time GPS, engine diagnostics, even how the driver's behaving, thanks to sensors. Combine that with IoT. And yeah, these vehicles aren't just moving things. They're generating constant streams of info. And this is where consultants are really critical. They turn that flood of raw data into clear directions, like pinpointing exactly which driver might need a bit more training on, say, idling too much, or figuring out the specific maintenance schedule that avoids a really costly breakdown down the road.
Yeah.
It's about actionable insights, not just raw numbers.
Okay, so beyond the tech, there's always the money, right? The bottom line.
Right.
And this big push now for sustainability. Companies are putting serious cash into going electric, cutting emissions, squeezing every last drop out of fuel.
Oh, absolutely. And consultants are really key in making sure those initiatives land properly with precision. They help clients hit both goals. The economic ones, like, maybe cutting fuel costs by 10–15%, and the environmental ones, like seriously reducing their carbon footprint. Often it's about finding those seemingly small things a slightly better route, identifying one truck that's a gas guzzler that actually add up to huge savings.
Okay, but it can't all be straightforward. What are some of the big hurdles? What's holding back growth in this consulting space?
Yeah, good question. The biggest one, I'd say, is probably the cost, or at least the perceived high cost, of getting these pros involved. Especially for smaller, maybe mid-sized fleets, bringing in consultants can look like a big expense up front. They might think, oh, our internal team can handle the basics. They might miss the hidden cost of just being inefficient. Though what's interesting now is seeing more consultants use performance-based pricing. So their fee is actually tied to the savings they generate for the client. Turns it from just a cost into, well, an investment.
Okay, let me ask you, the listener, this. When you think about sharing sensitive company data with an outsider, what's your first worry? I bet for a lot of you, it's data security. And these consulting projects, they often need deep access, right? Routes, vehicle health, even driver behavior data.
That's a huge point, and a very legitimate worry. Fears about cybersecurity breaches or maybe someone misusing proprietary info. That definitely makes some clients hesitant, even when the benefits seem really clear. Good consultants tackle this directly. They have to. Strong encryption, secure platforms, really clear NDAs. Building that trust is fundamental. It's part of what they sell.
And then there's always the people factor, resistance to change, especially in companies that have been around a while. Is that just stubbornness?
It's usually more complex than that, often a mix. But there are real concerns under the surface. You often find, legacy systems that are clunky but familiar, workflows people are just used to. And yeah, sometimes just skepticism about outsiders telling them how to run their business. It's that fear of disruption, maybe, upsetting the way things have always been done, even if it's not the best way anymore. So you get this inertia, this slowness to adopt new strategies, even when the benefits are like staring them in the face. It's overcoming that we've always done it this way hurdle.
Right. But despite those hurdles, you mentioned some really promising trends, things shaping the future here. What are the big shifts we should be watching?
Well, one of the biggest, no question, is the massive shift towards electric fleets, and eventually autonomous ones too. Organizations really want to cut their carbon footprint, so consultants are becoming crucial in managing that EV integration. And it's not just, okay, buy some electric trucks. It's way more involved,
Yeah.
helping choose the right vehicles, figuring out the charging infrastructure, there's a complex grid impact, planning routes to deal with range. And yeah, autonomous tech, while it's still early days, relatively speaking, is definitely a growing area for advice, getting clients ready for that.
It does feel a bit like the future sometimes, especially when you talk about predictive analytics and AI. How are consultants actually using that now?
Oh, it's genuinely transformative. Consultants are using AI tools right now to forecast maintenance needs incredibly accurately. Think about predicting like which specific part on which truck is likely to fail before it actually does. Based on sensor data, past patterns, they're optimizing routes on the fly, adjusting for live traffic, weather, minimizing idle time. It all just means fleets run smoother, fewer vehicles are stuck waiting for repairs, and every mile counts more.
So, okay, all this advanced stuff. Does that make it even less accessible for smaller players? What about affordability?
That's where these newer models come in, like subscription-based or modular consulting. It's a direct response to that cost barrier we talked about earlier. These more flexible approaches let clients buy just the specific help they need. Maybe it's just a compliance check or an emissions audit for one quarter or help optimizing roads for a specific region. They don't need a huge long-term contract. It makes the expertise much more scalable and, yeah, definitely more affordable for a wider range of companies. It sort of democratizes it.
So, wrapping this up, what we've really seen today is how comprehensive fleet management consulting has become. It's everything from, cutting costs and boosting efficiency to handling tricky regulations and embracing these huge tech shifts like EVs and AI. It really seems like a powerful shortcut for companies trying to stay optimized in transportation.
Exactly. And if you zoom out a bit, look at the bigger picture. This whole market really mirrors a much broader shift we're seeing everywhere. This move towards operations being super data-driven, sustainable, and just highly, highly optimized, pretty much in every industry. It really raises that interesting question, doesn't it? How are different sectors using specialized outside help to adapt faster instead of trying to invent everything internally?
Right. And for you listening, just take a second to think about how vital the smooth movement of goods and services is to your everyday life. I mean, everything from your morning coffee, the clothes you're wearing, the device you're hearing this on right now. So here's a thought. How could those principles we talked about, really diving deep into data, bringing in outside eyes to optimize things, apply to challenges maybe in your own life or your work, even totally outside of fleets? What parts of your world might actually benefit from that kind of really focused, data-driven exploration? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.